Good day, students. Welcome to A Plus Model School, Ikotumodo, Osun State, Nigeria. My name is Taylor Samson Additional, and I will be your tutor on biology today. Last week we talked about microorganisms in action. We talked about the definition of microorganisms. We talked about the types of microorganisms that we have. We have the virus, the bacteria, the protozoan, the fungi, algae, so on. We talk about the growth of microorganisms. We talk about the two methods to measure the growth of microorganisms. We saw some diagrams of some microorganisms. So we talk about the beneficial effect of microorganisms. We talk about the harmful effects of microorganisms. We talk about disease-causing microorganisms. We talk about microorganisms that are spread, the ways in which microorganisms are being spread through air, through water, through food, through animal vectors, through personal or direct skin contact. We talk about some diseases, like the airborne disease. I believe you checked the note that is being attached to the last class. Please, you have to check it for a good understanding. Please, if you have not gotten that note attached to the last class, please try and get it. We talk about some diseases. We talk about airborne disease, where we talk about the common cold, chickenpox, measles, so on and so forth. We talk about the food and waterborne disease, where we talk about typhoid, cholera, dysentery, and so on. We talk about the vector-borne disease. We talk about the malaria, sleeping sickness, yellow fever. We talk about the disease spread by contact. We talk about the gonorrhea. We talk about the syphilis. We talk about the HIV/AIDS. Now, today, we'll be taking a fresh topic, and the topic is towards better health. I believe every one of us wants to have a better health. Today, we'll be talking about how we can take care of ourselves, how we can take care of ourselves. We can control microorganisms, how we can control the harmful microorganisms that we have around us. So we're going to talk about towards better health, and the subtopic is control of harmful microorganisms. Control of harmful microorganisms. Now, what we'll be talking about under this subtopic will be control of harmful microorganisms. We talk about vectors. We talk about definition of vectors. We talk about ways of controlling vectors. We're going to talk about student health. Students' health. I believe this will be a very interesting one. How you can have a good health. How you can maintain a good health. How you can have a good hygiene. I believe most of our students will be exposed under this section, because there are some things that I'll be mentioning, and you have to skip it. You used to skip it, like washing of teeth, like taking your bath. Let's get there first. So, harmful microorganisms can be controlled by ways in which we can control our harmful microorganisms. Let's check it out. Use of high temperature. Most of the microorganisms cannot survive under a very high temperature, and that is always advisable that before you heat your food, you eat it warm, because most of the microorganisms cannot survive under high temperature, like sterilization by boiling, autoclaving or heating of food, water and other products to kill microorganisms. So if you notice that you have microorganisms in any of your places, just heat it up. The microorganism will die. Use of drugs and antibiotics. You cannot eat up your internal environment, like your stomach. So you have to take drugs. If you have microorganisms inside your drugs, like chloroquine kills Plasmodium parasite. This Plasmodium parasite is what is inside the female Anopheles mosquito. The female Anopheles mosquito. And when it bites you, that's what it transfers this Plasmodium into your body system. And this is when you say you have malaria. So you can use antibiotics or drugs to kill the plasmodium. When you kill this Plasmodium, you feel okay and malaria is bygone. Another one is use of antiseptics. Use of antiseptics, you notice that we've been seeing some antiseptic soap, like mention types of antiseptic soaps that we have. You know some of them, you measure them, you This antiseptic soaps helps to kill or inhibit, that means stop the growth of pathogenic microorganisms. It inhibit or stop the growth or of kill pathogenic microorganisms. We have series of antiseptic soap. I don't want to mention name of soap so that I will not be advertising soap, but you know the antiseptic soaps that you are using at home. Another one is destruction of vectors. Destruction of vectors such as mosquito, flies, rats, etc. If you notice that you have abundance of mosquito in your environment, go and check that environment. That environment has a place that is breeding the mosquito, either a waterlogged area or a bushy area. This helps mosquito to grow and reproduce very well. So if you want to control this mosquito, you have to what? To destroy their home. It's either you make the water to move, or waterlogged area, you clean the waterlogged area and make sure the water is moving. The water does not stay in one place, or you clear the bush around you. By doing this, you have what? Destroy the vectors. Or if you have mosquito inside your house, there are different types of anti-mosquito that you can use. You know them. You can spray it in your house and it kills all these mosquitoes. About rat, you can use rat trap. You can use some rat killers, flies. You can use, there is a kind of a bat, like a lawn tennis bat that they used to sell. It helps in killing flies or mosquitoes. When you wave it and the mosquito comes in contact of it, it kills the mosquito. So all these means can be used to destroy the vectors. Use of disinfectant. You know the disinfectant that we have around us, like carbonic acid, like our our Dettol, our Septol. Sorry for mentioning all those names. All this, they are what? They are disinfectant. They can help to what? To disinfect your environment. And Dettol soap too and Septol soap too is a what? Is a kind of antiseptic soap that you can use to bathe. It helps kills microorganisms. Use of salt. Salt too kills microorganisms. It stops its growth of microbial cells and prevent their multiplication. It does not allow them to multiply. And that's why you see when you have wound, some people will advise you to put salt. Why they are asking you to put salt is for it to kill the microorganism around that wound. Salt can be used to preserve food, and you notice most of our fish is being preserved by salting. When you put salt, it inhibits or it stops the multiplication of microorganisms inside such food. Wash cut and wood to prevent infection. I think if I've said something about that, to use salt to prevent your wound from being attacked by microorganisms. And microorganisms can also be controlled by promoting health education. That means you move around, you tell people how to take care of themselves, the things that they are supposed to do. They should not eat cold food. They should make sure that food is warm or hot when being taken. They should wash their hand after going to toilet. They should clean their house regularly. They should make sure that water areas with waterlogged are being drained. All these are promoting health education. You tell them what they do so that they will understand why they have to do all these things to avoid microorganism growing or infesting in their area. Quarantine services is another way of stopping microorganism. Quarantine service, I think that is happening in Nigeria presently, all over the world. When you are moving from one place to another, especially those people that are traveling down through this pandemic COVID-19 period, they will ask them to self quarantine for how many days? At least 2 weeks. Or anybody that is being attacked by this COVID-19, they used to announce that they are going to what? Self isolation, self quarantine. That means they will not come in contact with anybody, not to so that they will not spread these microorganisms. And that happened of the governor of Oyo State. He went into isolation, he quarantined himself. Governor of Ekiti State is doing that presently. I think governor of Ondo State too did that like a couple of weeks ago. So all this, they are doing this so that they will not infect another person with this disease. So that is what we call what? Quarantine services. And if you notice, those people that are having COVID-19, they are being taken to a special place. in where they put all of them together so that they will not come in contact with the outside world. This is also a quarantine services. It helps to reduce or the multiplication of these microorganisms. Personal hygiene such as regular bathing. It's a must that you take your bath in the morning, and when you go to bed at night, you take your bath too. Brushing of teeth. Most of you hit the breakfast, take the lunch, you even take brunch, you take the dinner. It's after dinner that you remember that you've not washed your teeth. That is a very bad hygiene. So you have to keep all this up to space. Personal hygiene, washing of hand before meal and after defecating. I think I've said that earlier. When you go to toilet, you wash your hand with soap, not ordinary water. You wash your hand with soap so that it can kill all these microorganisms. Maintaining good health. This helps us to resist most pathogenic microorganisms. If you maintain your good health, you don't wear a cloth that is dirty. You don't pick things with things that are dirty with your bare hands, or when you do that, you wash your hand immediately. All this personal or maintaining a good health help us to what you eat on time. You eat good food, you eat balanced diet. All this help us to control pathogenic micro or resist pathogenic microorganisms. Use of ultraviolet radiation to kill bacteria. This is another techniques that you can use to kill bacteria. Ultraviolet radiation, it helps in killing bacteria. Still on the control of harmful microorganisms. Dehydration inhibits the growth of microbes. Dehydration means you are removing water. Removal of water. That's what we call dehydration. Is removal of what? Water. It helps to stop the growth of microbes. Food can be preserved by drying, and that's why you see people drying most of their food, like this cocoa. You see them spreading inside the sun to dehydrate it, to remove the water content inside it so that it becomes dry, so that it will stop the microbial activities or activities of microorganisms inside that food. Drying in the sun can be used to kill microorganisms. When you dry your blanket, your clothes inside the sun, it helps to kill what? Microorganisms. Another one is covering of food and water. When you're putting your food on the table, make sure it's being covered. Don't leave it open, because flies can come and sit on that food. And fly is a good vector. It carries so many microorganisms on itself. So when it sat on that food, it contaminates that food with microorganisms. So you always learn how to protect. You cover your food and water. Always prevent contact with vectors. By immunization or vaccination against diseases. Now you notice that some people used to move around, and they will ask you that they want to immunize you or vaccinate you against diseases such as measles, tuberculosis, polio, etc. This is common among young children. Now, that's all about control of harmful microorganisms. After this subtopic, I believe you should be able to list 6 ways by which you can control harmful microorganisms. Even more than that, you should be able to do that. Explain 4 ways by which one can maintain good health. I'm very sure you should be able to explain 4 ways in which you can maintain good health. Now we'll be moving to the next subtopic, which is vectors. Vectors. We want to talk about vectors. We talk about the meaning of vectors, and we talk about how they carry microorganisms. Non-living agents that carry microorganisms from one place to another include air, water, and food. Can you see? A vector can be defined as a living and non-living agent that carry microorganisms from one place to another. It includes air, water, food, and under the living agents that carry microorganisms from one place to another, we have the animals. Most of them, you know that living agents are animals. We have microorganisms are known as vector. Living agents that carry microorganisms from place to place are animals. These animals that carry pathogenic disease causing microorganisms are known as what? Vectors. So we can define vectors under 2 definitions. We can use 2 definitions as the non-living agent that carry microorganisms from one place to another, which example is given as air, water, and food, and living agent that carry microorganisms from one place to another that carry disease, pathogenic causing disease, that carries it from one place to another, They are known as what? Vectors. Now, example of vector. Example of vector. We'll be taking example of vectors. Example of vectors are cockroaches, fleas, mosquitoes. You know, mosquito, I told you mosquito carries what? Plasmodium. And when it's being injected into your body system, it's what? It multiplies and causes malaria. Titis fly is responsible for the trypanosomiasis, which is the same thing as sleeping sickness. Black flies, house flies, bed bugs, ticks. Ticks is found on dogs, rats, dogs, cats, etc. All these are what? They are vector agents. They can carry microorganisms from one place to another. And the funniest thing about this vector is that these microorganisms that they are carrying will never multiply. It will never multiply on them until they pass it to their what? To the person that the person or to another person. Have you ever heard that mosquito is having malaria? No. It's because the plasmodium does not multiply on mosquito. It's until it bites you. When it bites you and it is transferred into your body system, that is when it will start multiplying and it will cause malaria. So, vectors may transmit microorganisms from one place to place or person to person, either mechanically or biologically. That means they can be transmitted mechanically or what? Biologically. Let's see. Let's see how they can transmit mechanically. The vector carry pathogens on various parts of their bodies, e.g., legs, wings, mouthparts, ears, etc. You can see mosquito, flies, cockroaches, they carry all these microorganisms on the various parts of their body, e.g., legs. It can be on their leg, it can be on their wings, it can be on their mouthparts, it can be on their hair. So when any of this touches your body system or touches your food, they have automatically transmit or transfer the microorganisms or the pathogens into your body system or to your food. And that one, the pathogens do not grow or multiply on the body of the vectors. I think I've explained that earlier. Pathogens carried in this way includes Salmonella typhi, Fibrochlorea, and Amobia histolytica. All these, they are what? They are pathogens that are being carried by a vector. Now let's check about the biological method. This vector in the case becomes infected with the pathogen when it feeds on the body fluid of an infected person or animal. That means when this animal feeds on the body fluid of an animal, it transfers it to the body system of that person. Or when this vector attacks someone with this disease, it infects it with itself and it transfers it to another person when it bites or starts on another person. The pathogen developed and multiplied in the body of the vector, which then infects a healthy person when it goes to the feet. This is another formula. The first one I mentioned, that it does not multiply on the body of the vector, is the mechanical. Now the biological is that the pathogen multiply on the body of the what? Of the vectors, and it transfer it to a healthy person. Now, for example, you have two people living in your room, and one of the person has malaria. That means has plasmodium in his body system. Now, if mosquito should bite that person becomes infected. The mosquito becomes infected, and what? And bites the other person that is not having malaria. That means that person will become what? Infected too with malaria. And that's why when someone is having malaria in a family, it is better to treat every member of that family, because there is probability that most of them are being infected with malaria. The part of the pathogen life cycle takes place in the body of the vector. That means the pathogen has a kind of life cycle that takes place in the body of the example of such vectors and pathogens they carry are Anopheles mosquito. Female carries Plasmodium protozoan that causes what? Malaria. I think I have explained much. Sorry, I've said so many things about that. The titis fly carries trypanosome protozoan, which carries sleeping sickness, trypanosomiasis. Another one is Aedes mosquito, carries a virus that causes yellow fever, dengue fever. Can you see the example of biological ways in which pathogens vectors transfer pathogens. So this is an example of a tapeworm, an endoparasite. When I say endoparasite, that means it is a parasite that lives inside the host. It does not live outside the host. It lives inside the host. So you can see a tapeworm, and beside it is another example of a tick. A tick is an ectoparasite. That means it lives outside its host. It lives outside its host. They are both part vectors. This is another one, the blood fluke. The blood fluke is an endoparasite too. It also lives inside the host. Now you can see the life cycle of a blood hook. Life cycle of a blood hook. You can see mature flukes settle in human gut. It settle in human gut. Then it move closer. If you move closer, if you see the diagram, you will see that the fluke has eggs. So when the human passes excreta or urinate, it comes out. The egg comes out of the body system, and the egg hatch into the larva. It hatch into the larva, and if peradventure the larva enters the snail. If the larva enters the snail, then the larva leave snail as what? Carcass. It leaves the snail as what? As a carcass. The carcass enter the human when maybe you are inside the water. The carcass enters human host, and the carcass mature in the human bloodstream and goes. You can see all this, the life cycle, how it circulates. This is how it circulates. That means from the human, it goes back to human. That means from snail into the water bodies. The human enters the water body. It enters back into the what? Into the human. So that's the life cycle of a human blood fluke. Now, how do we control our vectors? How do we control our vectors? Vectors can be controlled by killing the vector. You can kill them by spraying with insecticide, use of traps, and poison for rats. All these are available. You've been seeing them around. You spray your room with Raid or any other insecticide to kill insects. Use of traps, the rat traps, poison that you used to buy and mix with food. You put it at the corner of your room to kill the rats. All these are ways in which you can control vectors. Use of larvicide. This one kills the larva, so it will not allow the egg or that has been transformed into larva. It will not allow it to hatch to reach adult stage. So it's also a way of controlling vector. Clearing of bush around houses. I think I've mentioned that. Clearing of bush around houses is also control the vectors. Destruction of breeding spots like stagnant water. I think I've said so much about that too. Stagnant water should be drained to prevent mosquito from breeding. Breeding means multiplication or giving or reproduction. Use of drugs to kill microorganisms in the host. You can use drugs, and that's why they ask you to deworm sometimes. You take drugs that will kill the hooks or the worm inside your body system. All these are what? Are ways to control vectors. Keeping the environment clean. Yes, make sure your environment is clean. Your environment is free from bushes, is free from waterlogged area. All refuse is being burnt in an incinerator. So all these are ways in which you can control vectors. Now, let's see, maybe you really understand what you've been saying so far. Let's see if you really understand what you've been saying so far. Define the term vector. I think you should be able to do that. You should be able to do that. The living and the non-living one. You should be able to do that. Enumerate 4 vectors, the pathogens they carry, and the disease caused by this pathogen. That's why I said you need to get the note that is being attached to the last class. All these are inside the notes. State 3 ways by which vectors can be controlled. State 3 ways by which, I think that's what we just finished talking about. So all this, you should check these questions. If you cannot answer all these questions, please go back to the video and rewatch to have a better understanding. Now, we're going to the last subtopic under this topic. The last subtopic under this topic, and this is what we call student health. Student health. Student health. Maintenance of good health. How do you maintain a good health? Maintaining the health of students and the people in a community is the responsibility of the individual, is your personal responsibility. Your personal responsibility is to take care of yourself, to live healthy. The community is also the community responsibility. They have their own part to play too. The government too also have their own part to play, and health organization too has their own part to play. Ways of maintaining good public health include, now let's observe. Let's see ways in which we can maintain good public health. The first one is proper observance of personal hygiene. This one is talking to every individual. Proper observance of personal hygiene. Keep yourself and your environment clean. That is the first thing. It will be very, very hard for any microorganism to come close to you when your environment is clean. It is when you are dirty that you observe that you are having series of mosquitoes around you, when water is being logged, when bushes surround your houses. So proper observation of personal hygiene. Keep yourself and your environment clean. Always take your bath. Always take your breath, and always clean your mouth, wash your teeth. So all these are personal hygiene and ways to in which you can keep your environment or yourself clean. Proper refuse disposal. Proper refuse disposal. Your refuse dumps should be what? Should be properly disposed. You burn them in an incinerator. You burn them in what? In an incinerator, or you bury your sanitary landfills. When you have a place that you don't pour your sanitary things anyhow, you make sure you bury them. All these are ways to what? To maintain a good health. Another one is proper sewage disposal. Use of pit toilet and water closet toilet. All these things are ways in which you can maintain a good health. Another one is protection of water supply by boiling, filtration, and addition of chlorine, storage in clean containers. All these your storage that you have around your house. Make sure you clean them very well. You boil, you filtrate, you add chlorine. Even your well, add chlorine in order to make all these things clean, or the storage of the water clean, to avoid typhoid. Protection of food by keeping them in clean containers. Always, even if you have washed the plate and you want to use the plate next day, make sure you rinse it. Use water to rinse it, because you might not know any microorganism might have come in contact with all these things. So protection of food by keeping them clean in containers. Boiling or cooking properly before you eat it. Don't eat undone food. Make sure you cook your food and make sure your food is well done before eating. Washing of fruit. Any fruit that you want to eat, mango, guava, cashew, make sure you wash them first before you eat them. Vegetables and hand before eating. Wash your hand before eating. Make sure you wash your hand before you eat. Health organizations such as United Nations Children Education Fund, UNICEF, World Health Organization, WHO, International Red Cross Society, it is helped to maintain the health of people in a country through their corporate activities. You should be seeing around, especially when pandemics come up. You see WHO taking it up. They are responsible for the well-being of everybody on this earth. And you know that they are not tried by nature. Any country that is being infected, they take it up with them and they help them to go through it. So these are their job. They helps in maintaining good health or personal hygiene. Now, after seeing all this, I think I'm sure you enjoyed the topic very well, and we are gradually moving to the end of this class. Malaria, these are your assignments that are to be submitted before Saturday. You know how to transfer the assignment to me. You do the assignment in a sheet of paper. You take the picture of the assignment, you send it to my personal WhatsApp page. Now, number one is malaria is one of the most common diseases in the tropics. Explain clearly how a bite from mosquito can cause malaria. If you are brilliant enough, I believe you should be able to answer this question without even thinking twice, because I've been using malaria as most of the example that I used during this class. Another one is describe the function of the following health organization. I think you have to consult your internet for this, or you check your textbook. the what? The function of the following organization. The first one is World Health Organization. I want to know their function, what they do. United Nations Fund, UNICEF. United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF. I want to know what they do. International Red Cross. You list at least three of their functions, three of these organizations' function. And the third one is read on marine habitat. Yeah, I need you to read up because our topic will be talking about aquatic habitat. Our next topic and will be basically talking about marine habitat. So I need you to read up. So till we meet next week, thanks for your time. My name is Taylor Samson Additional. I'll see you in next class. Thank you.